these are probably the comfiest chairs that we've
They
had.
are really comfy.
I like them.
So we have with us today 3 incredible women who are doing amazing things in our community. All 3 of them have very unique and different stories. 2 of them successfully transitioned into a existing business, and one of them is an entrepreneur. So what I want you guys to do first is just go down the line, and you're going to just introduce yourself and tell us what business you are with.
My name is Megan Dahlhoff, and I own Open Sky Wellness Center, located in Lowville, right across from Craft.
My name is Kat Golden, and I actually work for Sunnycrest Flowers here in town in Lowville, but I also own my own business that I have transitioned from a physical business to an online business, and am working towards moving it back towards a physical business. So I've transitioned from literally coast to coast and location to location.
I'm Jen Messler. My husband Emerson and I own Jeb's Restaurant in Lowville.
Perfect. And I want to say I've gotten to know these ladies. I met Kat maybe 2 weeks ago because she is somewhat new to the area. Megan, I think we've known each other since 3rd grade, back in the gymnastics days. And Jen, I've known for the past few years, and I know her kids through swimming and being a swim coach. So really is a great community. We have great people running amazing businesses here in Lewis County. So this question is for everyone, and we'll start with Megan, and we'll just go down the line. Tell us a little bit about your story as an entrepreneur and what made you want to become a business owner.
Entrepreneurship is kind of in my family. So I grew up on a farm, and my father went into partnership with Keystone Lumber, which used to be Widmeyer Farm and Home in Glenfield. So he became a business owner, and then my sister joined him in partnership. So my father and my sister run a business. My brother owns a construction business, and it's kind of what I knew I wanted to do eventually. It happened a little bit sooner than I expected it to, but the time was right, so I went with it.
And what was your previous career?
When I took it over, I worked full-time at public health as a public health specialist, so I was kind of like community health, and I was just finishing my master's in nutrition. So do you want me to tell the whole story, or no?
Well, wait, we'll get
Okay.
into that. Perfect. All right, Kat.
So like Megan, I came from a family who owned businesses. My parents owned a couple of businesses over the years, and I actually had done wedding flowers for a long time. I'm a military spouse, so I am actually from California, and I have lived literally in 4 corners and everywhere that you could possibly imagine in between at this point. But I had been working at a job for a big corporate business, and I was utterly miserable. And I had started to kind of call around to see about finding a creative business that I could do, work with part-time, and it kind of transferred into, I started my own business, and it's kind of grown and transitioned from there.
Yeah, in Kat's business model, you'll see it's very unique to Lewis County what she's doing, and she's doing pretty amazing stuff. It's getting nationally recognized, which I just learned this evening, so I can't wait for her to talk more about that. Jen?
Emerson had been a pharmacist for about 20 years, and I have my master's in social work, and I had been mainly a stay-at-home mom doing foster care and adoptive parenting. And for a few years I had notebooks of what business we could open. What can we do? What can we do to get out of the corporate pharmacy, numbers game? Emerson had been in management in pharmacy quite a bit, and so he knew what he wanted to see if we ever opened a business. We thought it would be much smaller. We thought it would be probably he and I hanging out at home, building something and selling it, or going, I don't know, doing whatever. So we had probably 10 things in my notebook that we would just flip through for years trying to decide how to make this transition, because we also have 6 kids. So there's a lot of financial things related to that you're like, okay, we're not just moving and, selling hot dogs on the beach, which was it was a business plan on one part. How to get out of corporate and still function. We can eat rice and beans and our hot dogs from the beach stand. And so when Becky and Jeremy, who we purchased the business from, are our long-term friends. I was in Becky's wedding. We were in high school together, that sort of thing. And so, there was just a time when it was said, well, you guys could always buy our business. And we went, ha, ha, ha. And then we all went, could that work? So that's our transition.
Awesome.
Okay?
And how long has Jeb's been in the business since?
So it was opened in 2002, November.
Yep.
And back then, we helped paint the business. We helped come up with the name, and we purchased it in 2015.
Yep. And Jeb's is one of those restaurants. It's been a restaurant, different owners, different names for many years, and it's just been a staple in our community and in downtown Lowville. I mean, that place is always packed. Doesn't matter what time of day, there's always people eating there. So, awesome. Okay, we'll start with Megan. Now we can go into your deep dive side.
Okay, there we go.
So explain when you started to transition into your business and how did you find out about the opportunity? Do you want a different chair, right?
It's sure. Straight.
I'm putting my foot down for that same reason.
Okay. Good. Sorry. Can you repeat the question?
When did you decide to transition into the business, and how did you find out about the opportunity? Maybe explain about the previous owners.
Yes. So 2017, so it's been about 2 years. I was finishing my master's in nutrition, and I was just looking for a space to start a couple days a week, the weekends, a couple days evenings, because I still had my full-time job, just to kind of get started with my nutrition counseling. I still needed to do a full 6-month mentorship, internship type thing. So I was just looking for a space a couple times a week to do that. So I was kind of looking around where I might be able to do that, and Open Sky came up. I had never been there before. So I just sent an email to Open Sky, and the previous owner, her name was Kathleen, replied right back, and we met and we talked about just having that space for me to do that nutrition a couple times a week. In the first meeting, kind of at the end, she mentioned that she was getting ready to sell it, but we had figured that the space would be good for me to kind of get started there. And without even thinking, I said, there was an interested person at the time. She said that she was looking to sell, and kind of without thinking, I just said, if that falls through, please let me know. And so after a couple months, we had many conversations, and it turned out that that person kind of had some other things going on, and it worked out that I was interested, and it was just kind of the right fit.
Awesome. How long did it take for everything to happen?
It happened really quick. I think like April to July. I was trying to think back. It was either April or May to July. And that might seem like a long time, but it happened very quick for me. because there was, I had my full-time job. I was doing all this stuff on the side and in confidence because I didn't want anybody else really to know about it. And I kind of felt a little bit rushed, and I guess that would be kind of, and I'm getting to it a little bit soon, but maybe a little piece of advice is don't feel rushed with it, because it's a big decision. But everything worked out. But yes, it did happen pretty quick. I would say a couple months.
Awesome. Thank you. All right, Kat. So I just want to know, she works for Sunnycrest, and unfortunately the now current owner, Lena, could not be here. But Lena transitioned into Sunnycrest from Eric's wife, so small world. So I know that, did Lena give you any?
Lena, excuse me, really wanted to just kind of, she's gone through the transition process, which on either end is complicated. There's lots of things going on. She really wanted me to kind of more touch on the fact that we are a veteran-owned business these days, and transitioning as a new member into the community always poses additional challenges, especially in such a rural and tight-knit community. You kind of can be almost the outsider, and I think she's really done an amazing job of kind of bridging that gap and really kind of incorporating herself, her and her husband, into the community and kind of really growing the business. And I think it's gone really well. I ended up at Sunnycrest kind of by happenstance. I happened to be driving to Ace one day to work on one of my many projects, and they had a sign up that they were hiring for a floral designer, and I have experience with that going back quite a long ways, which was the business that I had originally started in 2012 when we lived in Seattle. But because I'm now a military spouse, I was forced to kind of abandon the business that I had just started and transition into something else, because I had already paid for a website and a logo and all of this kind of stuff, and I owned it. I decided, instead of wasting the things that I had already paid for, to really kind of transition it into something else. And so I transitioned into an online-based business. This is going to sound really weird, but I wasn't selling anything and I wasn't buying anything, and that's a very weird concept, I think, for most people, to exist in this virtual world, make an income and not actually be selling anything. So I started a home-based business. It's a website, and it's called Pocketful of Posies. At this point, I have been featured both in printed media as well as online features through Good Housekeeping, House Beautiful Magazine, Country Sampler. I got a phone call from the Rachel Ray Show not too long ago. So it's just an entirely different concept to exist in this virtual world, which is why I feel I'm a little nervous right now, is because my business is very much like, I sit behind a computer screen. I don't necessarily go out and sell a product face to face.
Can we show some of your examples of, and can you go into a little bit more of like what you are selling?
Here, let me help you.
I'll put that out of the way.
No.
So this is, I kind of put together a PowerPoint because I'm not sure if I'm doing the right button.
Hang on, sorry. There we go, that should work.
Okay. So just kind of touching back on Sunnycrest here, we obviously do flowers, weddings, those kinds of things, but we're also focused on incorporating other small businesses into our business. So we have a lot of local products that are made by other local artisans, and we're really, that is part of our main focus right now, is kind of supporting the community that supports us. And then, so this is my website. So when we first moved to Texas in 2015-ish, maybe, this was the very first project that I did that kind of went viral, and it was something that I had published through a company called Home Talk. But anyways, that's just kind of wanted to show you guys where we started, but originally I really kind of focused on, we rented, you know, we're military, it doesn't make sense for us to buy a house every time we move. And so, you know, kind of what you could do with something that is rented and plain and turning it into, you know, something that got picked up by HGTV as like, I think it was like 2015's top 10 trends of the year or something like that. And, you know, just kind of refocusing on, you know, you can be completely creative and create this business. And I think that that's really unusual for most people. But these are just kind of some projects that I have done, you know, befores and afters. You know, this was a feature that I had actually printed in Country Sampler magazine last year. This is our actual current house. We did buy a house here because we love Lewis County. This was our house when we purchased it. It was very weird. It was very dark. There was a bathroom wall light, and that was the only light upstairs. It was very odd. And so I spent 3 weeks repairing plaster, which can't say I ever really want to do that again, but I did it. And this is kind of what it looks like now, and this is what the Rachel Ray Show had contacted me regarding. So just to kind of show you guys, you know. Right now I am currently restoring furniture and moving them through Sunnycrest Flowers, which is part of what I'm doing there. This guy looks like it has clay, but it really was just a really bad paint job. But it's just taking something that has been, you know, totally disheveled and sad and making it into something that's, you know, completely awesome. And so yeah, kind of
It's amazing. Very cool. Very unique.
where I'm at.
If I ever have a kid. Yeah. And you, I think Lena was telling me you go into someone's house and you will completely redecorate based on.
So I'm working on changing
what
over my licensing again, as going from this virtual business to kind of establishing a little bit more of a physical presence here. Once I finish all of my licensing changes, I do a consultation where I can come in and just help you make the changes, because a lot of times people don't know what they want, and they don't know what they don't want. You know, you have this idea, but how do you get there? And it's not that I'm coming in and gutting your house and doing that, because it's very stressful for everyone involved. This is more of a, you know, like, how do you transition from where you're at to where you want to be, and making small changes while working with things that you maybe already own, instead of, you know, let's throw this out and let's start over completely, because that's very expensive for everyone. And you know, I mean, I know that's not my budget, so I try very hard to make sure I'm working, you know, within what people actually want to do.
Awesome. Very cool. Very unique.
Okay.
All right, Jen. What was the process in transitioning into the business, and did you have assistance from the previous owner?
Part of our transition happened sort of before the public started knowing about it. That was part of the way we were able to do it without our staff going, what's gonna happen? You know, that whole thing. They knew who we were as more like friends of Beck and Jer, but not who are they gonna be as owners. Becky was really the financial person there, and I took over that role. So for the first, she was with me for 3.5 months, that literally I sat in the office with her and we did everything day after day together, and I just was like her shadow. And that's one of the ways the staff got to know me. And then Jeremy stayed on basically doing the same thing for Emerson, and they just kind of shadowed each other. And that was, Jeremy stayed on for a 2-year period for that. Becky was like a 3-month period. So then by the time we owned it, Becky was done. So I was like volunteering my time for 3 months. Like, I wasn't getting paid for my time in the office, but it was so valuable to me that I have notebooks of things, because you don't know what you do every day until you're starting to transition it, and then she's like, oh wait, I do this. Oh wait, I'm in charge of this. I mean, I literally have like Becky does this. You know what I mean? And then we changed it from things that I've taken over other parts of the business than what she did. But that's part of the initial transition was I'm going to do exactly what she did. And then after I get comfortable, I'll make it my own.
Awesome.
And that was the same like with Emerson. He did exactly what Jeremy did. And then we started making it our own.
That's great. And what challenges did you face throughout the transition?
Some of the big challenges is going from a known salary. I mean, we've lived and done things for, we were 45 years old when we were doing this transition. It's not the young transition time. You know, you have 6 kids, you're sending some to college, you're going, okay, let's just throw it up in the air and let's go. So some of the challenges was just, is this actually going to be okay? Or are we going to have to then, are we going to sell our house, sell this, sell that, and move to the beach and sell the hot dogs? Like really, you have to, in some ways, we were at that level of like, if this doesn't work, okay, he could always go back to pharmacy. He could always do some of that. We did have like that fallback plan, but you're still investing a lot. So that was one of the biggest challenges, truthfully. Then to convince our staff that we were going to be okay, that even some of these changes that we're implementing, hopefully in the end are going to be okay. You can trust us. We have your best interests in mind. We're not just coming in because we want to own a business. We're coming in because we want Lewis County to survive. We want our staff, each staff member, to survive. We want you to be able to live in our area. We want you to be able to come out and buy at Ace or, you know, fix your house. We want people to have living wages, living income, being able to buy a house in our area. We want our community to continue. We love our community. Both Emerson and I grew up. He grew up in Constableville, me in Lowville, graduated from Lowville, farm family. We want to see people continue to live here. And buying a business here was important. I love our school.
Yeah, that's great.
You know.
So I think to wrap up this panel, if you guys could each give one piece of advice as an entrepreneur or as an entrepreneur taking over an existing business, what's that one piece of advice that you would give?
Maybe the finance people are going to go over this, but I think going back to what one of you were saying about the valuation, because I didn't get the chance to go to these things, like it was happening. So making sure you really understand that valuation formula, because when I looked at it, it's like, okay, where did this, I can't even remember the term for it, but where did that number come from? Was it just like thrown out of the blue, or, so really understanding and questioning it. Making sure that it wasn't just picked out of the sky, that there was some reasoning behind that formula, that valuation.
Yeah.
My biggest thing I would say is to not be afraid of the internet. I have found that living in Lewis County, and same thing with Watertown and everything, when we moved here, nobody has their business on Google. Google is free. I know everybody gets the phone call that's like, we'll charge you and you can be your #1 Google listing. That is not actually Google. That is a third-party company who's trying to get your money. But putting your listing on Google, I know that now that I live here, I have friends here, I know who to call and say, hey, can you make a recommendation for an electrician or a plumber or whoever. None of these businesses are on Google. I can tell you when we bought our house, I had to hire an electrician day one to do something really simple. And because I had to hire an electrician out of Carthage, I ended up paying 3 times as much as I should have paid, but I didn't know because I didn't know who to call. And I would say as a newcomer into Lewis County, the biggest trouble that I have is getting information. You know, trying to get my daughter enrolled in soccer was unbelievable I couldn't do it last year because I couldn't find it. Again, now that I actually know people in the community, I have a network of people I can call and be like, hey, where do I get this? Nothing is on the internet here. And it is free to put it on Google. So I highly, highly recommend putting it on Google. It will do yourself a favor. There are more military transplants in Lewis County than I think people realize. We are so used to getting online to find things because, again, we've lived everywhere. That's the only way that we can find things. And so to move to a community where none of it is there and you're like, I don't know what to do, I don't know where to go, I don't know who to call, it's really challenging. So I would say take the 15 minutes, it's free, put it on there. It will do yourself a big favor. If nothing else, just catching transplants who are new to the area, who just don't know where to go. I mean, that's dollars that are leaving Lewis County and going to Carthage or going to Watertown or going to Syracuse because some of those businesses are on the internet and they can be called and we know where to find them. So that would be my number one thing.
Great point. And Jen?
If you're doing this as a family, just make sure that your spouse or partner is really on the same page as much as possible. Because it's tough. It's a challenge. Coffee every morning is important for us, that we can talk through this business,
Yeah. That's great.
I wouldn't have changed it. So.
Awesome. So we'll open it up for questions. If anyone has any questions for our panelists, we have about 5 minutes. Anyone?
Jen, were you worried about having to work with your husband day in and day out ahead of time, and how did you sort of negotiate that conversation?
Sure. Part of it is because we were doing business plans for so long, and we're pretty good communicators most of the time. We talked through, like, okay, if we have a business here at home, what would we do? How would we do that together? Can we work together? And it does still present challenges because, as two bosses in the same building, people will come to you for an answer and they might also then go to the next person. So you have to be in as much communication with each other as you can without always having to talk about business. So like we get home and maybe the two of us hadn't actually been in the building together, but we both had different pieces from the day that we both need to know. But our kids are also home and they don't need to hear about the business all the time. So it's trying to do the family, and then usually 6 a.m. coffee is when we talk about all of the day yesterday and what the person needs to know for the next day. But we do also have to try to have then relationship conversations somewhere along that line too. So we try to do our date nights. We try to do stuff like that. So yes, being with your spouse 24/7 is a good thing most of the time, but it can present its challenges when you don't have time, because it is your business and you are constantly on call.
Right. Communication is key.
In anything.
Yeah. Any other questions?
I do have another question for Jen.
Okay.
It sounds like your background prior to taking over jobs was not really with restaurant management. So in going into such a move, where did your confidence in that decision come from? Because I'm kind of in a similar position myself at this point, where I'm looking to step away from what I've been doing for the last 20 years.
Come talk to us. Yes. Yeah.
Where did your confidence in that decision come from? How did you step into that new realm?
So with Emerson being in pharmacy management for so long and managing his staff and their concerns or their schedules or the emotional highs and lows that our employees are going to have, he had went through that and he knew what he wanted to be able to do for future staff. And me with my social work background, I'm sorry, I'm just going to take care of you. So that is who I am as a person. So I'm going to run a business, whatever it is, the way I want to be treated, the way I want to have people be heard by their employer. So for me, my confidence is I'm a mom, I'm a social worker. I'm going to figure out whatever I can do to take care of my employees, which then helps our business, whatever business it would have been, happen. And having Emerson have that management level. My kid the other day was like, "Oh, Mom, I hate math." I said, "Yeah, that was my worst subject too. And guess what I do every day? Because I do the financial piece. Like, that's not my nature, you know? So, like, was I a little frightened of like, oh my gosh, I have to run these numbers. I have to be in charge of this. I'm not that. I'm the emotional person, you know? But sitting with Becky day after day in the office, I'm like, okay. So initially, was it like this huge idea? Yeah. But the more you break it down into the pieces of, okay, Emerson knows how to manage. He knows how to run schedules. I know how to take care of people. You know, once you break that down, you're like, okay, it's just whatever business it is, you can run as long as you know who you want to be as the owner and who you want to be as the person that you are. Like, if you're somebody that wants to be a business owner and you have an idea of what that is to be, you could probably run just about anything. You're going to transition from one thing that you thought you were going to do into the other.
One of the questions I guess I had was with the valuation of the business. Each one of these are small businesses, and we've looked at a couple in the past of buying out or setting up shop, if you will, with some of these places that have been mom and pops, and the books aren't real good. And I walked away from a deal that might have been a good thing, but they wanted to put a value of $400,000 on this piece of property, which really was a value of $200,000, but they're looking at that as the business too, and it's like, no, you need to break that out, you know. And then I still need to know what your cash flow was.
Right.
And they really couldn't give me good numbers, so I guess I don't know. Maybe you, I don't know. I mean, I don't want to point fingers, but it seems like the restaurant industry can be a little fuzzy. Although I don't believe that they were less than full of integrity and ethics and everything like that. But some of these things, you know, a little bit here, a little bit there, and that makes a huge difference on how you really cash flow at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So I guess I don't know if you can comment on that, or if that's something that back to the master comment on.
Well, I'm going to be talking about that.
Well, yeah, Sarah will talk about it, and I'm sure the finance panel will talk about it. And through this program, one of the biggest things that we're trying to push is for business owners to do that business valuation through the local SBDC. Free service.
But what I would say to that is, if I'm the business owner that has cooked books, I'm probably not going to want to bring that to somebody at this level here because of the fear of, you know, scrutiny and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
We're confidential.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why you have to ask, where did you come up with that?
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
We'll be talking about it.
Right, I think I would add to that a couple things. Again, one, that previous business owner is incredibly invested. I mean, every business owner I've ever talked to, they think their business is worth a lot of money because they've spent so much time and their heart and soul in the business. So you have to think about that. They're going to ask for a price that might not be realistic. So then you have to break it down into pieces. I think Carrie just kind of mentioned that. What's the real estate worth? What's the inventory worth? What's the business worth? Their customers. So if you take that approach and then you have to just go back to them and say, here's the numbers I came up with. I know you think this.
Steve?
Jen, when you transitioned from being an employee to an employer, how did your lifestyle change?
Like when I was working there, or
Yeah. When you got into your role as a business owner, how did that impact your life?
Are you happier as a business owner or when you were an employee?
Happier as a business owner overall. the flexibility for us in our life has, yes, we're kind of on call all the time, but we also have a little bit more flexibility of scheduling than Emerson had when he was a pharmacist. He had a set schedule, you know, he'd be there at 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. the days that he worked. So if I had an issue at home, like, hun, a squirrel is in our house, which happened one time, you know, like, can you come get the squirrel out of that house? You know, like that kind of thing. Like, he can't just run home. Whereas in a business where you own it and you're like, I'm running out for 10 minutes, or the kid is sick from school, or there's all sorts of things that as a business owner is so much more flexible for us than our life ever had been before. So yes, I was a stay-at-home mom, but we're now more flexible together as a partnership. Rather than me just being the flexible person all the time, he has the opportunity to parent our children more, to be in their lives more, to be part of the one that gets to go on the field trip because, oh, you have a field trip tomorrow and you need a chaperone? Okay, I think I can do that. That kind of flexibility. Our life is better in that way.
One more question, and then we'll take a break.
For Kat,
Sure.
transitioning from online to physical presence, and I guess back again, is that a product of being located here and not being online, or is that a natural genesis of where your business would probably go anyway?
It was a natural genesis, mostly, you know, being military, you know, we've been places for 1 year, we've been places for 4 years, and so to take my business when I originally had started it as a wedding florist, you know, I went from Seattle, Washington, where it was cold, you know, like 11 months of the year, and you know, I didn't have to invest in a lot of the things that, you know, like a cooler and all of these things, because the weather there worked with me, you know, versus we transitioned to Florida and all of a sudden, you know, a business that I could run out of a garage suddenly needs a $10,000 cooler. And it, you know, and so you can't go from this to this, and then on top of that being military, we have a weight limit. I can't haul a $10,000 cooler around the country. The military is not gonna go for that. So it was really just a matter of, you know, trying to find something that I could do. I had a baby in the process who required some special needs at the beginning, and so I was stuck at home, and so I needed a way to have some sort of outlet of the things that I liked to do, and just in general, you know, we weren't in a place that she could go be in childcare or anything else, and so transitioning into an online presence made sense, and it makes sense for me for the most part because regardless of where we live, I don't typically need business licensing because I'm not selling a product. I just have to keep track of my finances and, you know, pay the man at the end of the day, like everybody else. So transitioning back into a physical presence now, several years down the road, I think the licensing is the hardest part for me, because I've also had to unlicense businesses, and unlicensing them is just as complicated as trying to license them. And, you know, every state is different, so that is sometimes why the online presence has made more sense for our life, because I didn't have to go through that, you know, every year or every 18 months or 4 years. You know, I was very steady. And so that was kind of where I went with it.
Perfect. All right, so I think these ladies are going to stick around. If you guys have any other questions, please feel free to chat with them. But let's give them a round of applause.